What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Hammer and Chisel Performance Podcast. I'm your host, John Heck. As always, I do want to open up with a quick shout out to the sponsors of the podcast, Troponin Supplements. You guys hear me talk about them all the time, and you've probably noticed they are the only brand that I advertise on the podcast. They're the only brand that I have, found it worthwhile to align with. And that may change in the future. I'll always be with Troponin Supplements, but for now, I'm picky with who I work with. And I can't recommend their products enough. They keep me decked out in the apparel. And then you guys know before every episode of the podcast, I take a dose of my ATP, little 300 milligrams of caffeine and a powerful nootropic that just gives me a good surge in mood, energy, focus, all that stuff. But guys, I use these products with myself. I've used them for years, all my athletes, nutrition clients. So I highly recommend you check them out. Use code HECK for a discount at the Troponin Supplements website. Now, anyway, getting into today's episode. So I've got a treat for you guys. I've got a guy I'm excited to talk to. He is an incredibly accomplished power lifter. He trained at Westside. He went on to forge his own career post Westside as a power lifter, founding the popular Cube method, which is a program that a lot of you in the audience have probably utilized. And then he sustained a horrific injury, and I'm sure we'll get into that, with a brutal recovery process. And then since then has gone on to sort of reforge a new identity post powerlifting. So Brandon Lilly, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thanks a lot, man. Just a real quick note, two things. Justin Harris is amazing. Like he's just an amazing guy. So much respect for you aligning with him. I didn't work with him directly ever in powerlifting, but we talked a little bit, and I worked with John Meadows, Mountain Dog.
Yep.
And he and Justin were close. So there was a lot of, I think, pour over from Justin's mentality and mindset and his thinking. And really one of the first guys that I latched onto, because, I was talking to you a little bit before about how I'm different. But I used to think that, I was a problem because I was a thinker.
Right.
Most of the guys were just get in there, lift hard, do hard things, and get out of the gym. And Justin was one of the first guys, kind of peripheral to John, that I realized was like, it's cool to think, like the data tracking and the understanding of the biology and physiology. So big props to Justin for making me feel small, mentally, but
Right.
also, giving me a credence to like get out there and figure out some stuff and do better for it. So he's awesome.
Yeah, Justin, I would consider him probably my biggest mentor on the nutrition side of things. He and I worked.
He's a good one.
Yeah, he coached me off and on for several years, and now we've gone on to become friends and colleagues. But he is a great one, and man, he was strong back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And, also just brilliant. And man, I love talking with guys who kind of have, you use the word duality, kind of that. And that's where the name Hammer and Chisel, the name of my podcast, my company, comes from. I've kind of got the duality, or I like to think I do, the intellectual side and then the in the trenches side, right? There's the brains, there's the brawn. The hammer and the chisel. So, I love bringing on guys who are meatheads at heart, like me, but then also have just that deep thinking intellectual side, which is why I'm really interested to talk to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Followed your stuff really heavily in the last year or two, kind of the connection through Sornex and figuring who you were and what you're about. And dude, I mean, obviously looking at you, the results are evident, but it's also the way that you present yourself and carry your information. I think you're doing good stuff, man. So thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. No, it's important to me to walk the walk and to, I've kind of niched myself mostly into the nutrition space here lately. And it's a field with a lot of dogma and stigma and misinformation. And I try to, be a voice of reason and speak intellectually on it and walk the walk myself. But anyway, Brandon, if you don't mind, for some of my audience, who I'm sure most of them are very familiar with you, but for those of who are not, do you mind just giving a quick background on yourself?
No, not at all. Name's Brandon Lilly. Grew up in small town Paint Lick, Berea, Kentucky, Central Kentucky. Basically athlete my whole life: baseball, basketball, soccer, swimming, diving. I mean, everything that I could do. Always active outdoors. And kind of through high school, I was starting to show some promise as a soccer player. And really my sophomore to junior year of high school, I was starting to flirt with some colleges, talking to some coaches. And really the biggest hurdle for me was I was really good in a small market, like a small pond kind of situation. I played Class A. My graduating class had maybe 38 people in it at the time. So very small school, and it's kind of like we need to see you against bigger opponents or tougher talent. There was some organizational AAU style soccer, things like that, travel team, and just didn't have the money for it. So the other option was to go across town and play for that high school. It was a bigger high school, 4A. I did that. In the midst of all that, there was a recruitment law that was kind of the ink was drying on because some of the Catholic schools were recruiting kids from all over the country, and it was getting lopsided, you know. So they were trying to correct this. This was 98, 99, somewhere in that range. And because of that law, because I didn't change my residence within the same county, I lost my eligibility senior year. And senior year, you know, you can imagine lifelong athlete, 18 years old, the world just falls down around you because you can't do the thing that you love. So as young men without purpose do, they start to get in trouble and find themselves in mischievous ways. And I certainly did that and more. And the day that I kind of got the wake up call, I'd had some stuff go on with my family, a death that was pretty impactful, and just at school I didn't care. You know, I was skipping class, just whatever I could do to get out of there. But there was these digital clocks that stuck out like 90 degrees from the wall,
Yeah.
and it was just like 10 inches below the ceiling. So I just put both hands up there and was like stretching and hanging on it, and then all of a sudden I was just pulled it off the wall, and the whole system went blank. The school went down.
Oh
So,
no.
but I had a teacher that day, Travis Lynch, unbelievable offensive line coach at that school. Big guy, like 6'3", 300 pounds, and just a force. Like he was just a man, like a man's man. And he pulled me aside and he said, I'm thinking, here comes the bitch fest. Like he's getting ready to just eat my ear out. He said, man, what's going on with you? He said, I've seen you back slipping a little bit. And he said, I should have said something sooner, but what's going on with you? And I laid it on him. I was just honest with him. I've always, man, I fucked up. If I can say that, I've fucked up more in my life
Yep.
than 10 humans. But I've always been honest about it. Like when I've fucked up, I don't care how you view me. I view myself as that's the first step to correcting my mistake is being honest about it. So I tell him, and he's like, man, he said, I can see where you're at. He said, meet me in the gym today after school. So I go in there. Never been in a weight room before in my life. I was a soccer player. I was 165, 170 pounds, distance athlete. I could swim, I could run forever. And he pulls me in the weight room and he puts me on an incline chest press, like one of the ones at West Side where
Yeah.
you're just completely standing and you've got the chest press.
Right.
He puts me on this thing, maybe 15 pounds a side or something I could do a million times. And he's like, just talk to me. I'm gonna ask you questions. So he's asking me questions, dude, and it's like pointed at the pain, all the like, how's your stuff with your dad? How's the stuff with your mom? How's your brothers? How's this? How's this? On and on and on. And just started bawling, just started crying on this thing, and I didn't know why. He said, the reason you're crying is because you can feel the pain. You're feeling it add up. He's like, but what you don't think about is the pain that adds up in your heart. And he just kept talking to me. Dude, I bawled like a baby that whole set. And he said, just keep going. And then I got mad. And then it got a little bit easier, and then I was
Yeah.
like, I did it. And he's like, that's life. He said, the pain hits, you get mad about it, you do something about it, you feel better. And he just started pouring into me. And this dude, hey man, come over to the house. Me and my wife, we're gonna have dinner. We'll go fishing. We talked about fishing a little bit. Him and his son, we go out there fishing. He was the right guy at the right time to keep me on the tracks. So from there, he kind of helped me get into some throwing and just playing around with some shot put stuff. College in town, like I knew the coach and I went to school with his son. He was like, "Man, we need a thrower," and I was like, "Well, I can't throw very far, but I'll throw." So that got me into college. Like I was on the bubble. I was a good student, 3.2, really high test scores, ACT, SAT stuff. But nevertheless, I was just kind of lost. Didn't know what I was going to do. So that gave me momentum to go train again, like really build myself up and throw. Well, what I found through the throwing and the training was that I liked training more than I did throwing. So I only stayed on the team to lift. After freshman year, I was like, look, man, I'm doing some powerlifting competitions. I can't do this anymore. So I kind of cheated the system, got into school, and then dropped the reason I got into school. Excuse me. and started powerlifting. And from there, it was one of those things. It was just something that I was naturally good at. Like within a few months, I mean, crazy, 40 pounds of mass on my body, not all lean, but 40 pounds of mass. I grew 4 inches, so this was like a late blooming growth spurt that
Right.
everything hit at once. And I happened to be feeding the machine and lifting the machine, like everything was so good. It just started snowballing. And I was training at this little gym called Gorilla Squad Barbell. It was a one car garage, 5 or 6 guys. I had 3 guys in that one gym from a small town that had over 2,000 pound totals at the time, and 2 other guys that eventually got 2,000 pound totals out of 7 guys that trained in that gym. Actually, 6 of the 7 got a 2,000 pound total, and the other was a lightweight, and he was like 1,800, 10 times body weight.
Yeah.
So, like, out of a shithole garage, and nothing against the gym, it was jam packed every inch of it. It looked like a Gunner's place
Yeah.
out in Beverly Hills.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you couldn't walk for stuff being everywhere. But there was no, that was when I got the bug because it was the guys more than the lifting. It was just like I wanted to be around those guys. We pushed each other, we trained hard, but the training didn't matter. I was going to do whatever. It was just like we tried to kill each other every day.
Yeah.
We didn't understand periodization. We didn't understand undulation. We didn't understand that there's heavy days and light days. Every day was just an all-out assault. And from there, that's what got me the invite to Westside eventually. Me and my buddy Jake Anderson, big redhead, we would leave Richmond, Kentucky at 2 o'clock in the morning, drive to Westside, get there at 5:30, meet Lou at Bob Evans at 6, train at 8, be done by 10:30, stop at the subway, and be back in Kentucky 3.5 hours away by 1:30, 2 o'clock, and I go to work from 2 until 10 or 11. And we do that 3 days a week. And then eventually moved up there, kind of like in a rage of fury of like I was being called to this thing, right?
Yeah.
So I just eviscerated, scorched earth my life behind me. Like everything is forward, nothing behind me. I went up there and dude, it was great. But because of the way that I left, because of the way that I handled myself, I was really distracted. Really, really like I would have to go home immediately after training on Friday to get back home, see my kid and all that kind of stuff. And it was just bouncing around like crazy. And I'd actually won a bench meet at Laura Phelps' gym in Cincinnati. And the next morning I wake up, I'm literally having pancakes with my kid. And they're like, hey, you're no longer at Westside. You got to turn your key in. And I was like, all right. And there was a lot of stuff swirling around, different things. I was very distracted, very, very distracted. And Lou just told me, he's like, you're one of my favorite guys, but you're distracting the other guys with your distraction. He's like, get yourself together and come back. Well, me being me, I'm never going to take that graciously. Like, I'm
Right.
never, at that time, I could not hear that graciously. Like, man, I believe in you. You just got to fix yourself. It was, fuck you, Lou. Fuck West Side, fuck, and like, that was my mentality. And, through all of that, it was just, I was so mad at everything. My life, Louis, like, I can't believe you told me to move up here and now you're kicking me out, like that kind of thing. It was blame, 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 blame. So then I go over across the street to Lexington, and I met Danny Daig, the guy that owns Lexington Extreme. Chuck Vogelpohl was training there. Mike Johnston was training there. Mike Johnston was Donnie Thompson's kind of handler, training partner through the 3,000 run.
Yeah.
Phenomenally strong guys. But Danny told me, he's like, you got one chance. Like, there's no three strikes here for you. It's one chance. So I went in there, just kind of put my head down, trained with Chuck for a year, and in many, many ways, I learned a lot. Like, I learned what that man was capable of, just from an intensity level. And I've still never seen anyone around a barbell that is with 135 or 1,100 pounds that intense.
Yeah.
And it's not a fake show. It's not like blowing your nose out and acting like you're all hyped up. It was quiet focus and like some rage inside. But training with Chuck taught me a lot. I had a tremendous amount of respect for him. I wasn't training with Louis at Westside. I was training in the night crew with Hoff and those guys. So there was a little bit more flexibility. And looking back, that was probably the worst thing for me when I needed bowling lane bumpers to keep me straight. I had a
Yeah.
little bit too much freedom at Westside. So at Lexington, I was a little bit on a short leash. They kind of just kept me going straight. And dude, I got better. I hit my biggest total ever. I started training raw, focusing on like, well, if I can bench 800 in a bench shirt and I can bench 450 right now, what happens if I bench 500? What happens if I bench 550 and so on? So I just started getting really enamored with what would raw do for me in the shirt. And then that all worked out. I hit the biggest total of my life at the Arnold for Lex, and I was training there. But here's the catch. I'd only been training raw leading up to the meet. I'd already done a raw meet. I'd totaled 2138 the week or two before the Arnold, and I had never put my gear on the day I walked into the Arnold Classic. I put it on, opened all my lifts that day raw. So I opened my squat with like 661 or maybe even 700. I don't remember, but it was something light, but got me in the meet.
Yeah.
525 bench and like a 700-pound raw pull. Well, I pulled all my pulls raw that day, but nevertheless, I jump immediately to 1,005 on my second squat.
Threw the suit on.
Got Yeah, threw the suit on. No, it was 1,008 because 1,005 was my previous best, and this was kilos, so it was 1,008. Get that. It was a good lift. Go to the bench, open at 500, go 821 on the second for a PR. Comes down and it just hovering like 1 inch off my chest. I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
Another bench presser comes over, Dennis Cornelius, and he's like, man, 832 will touch. 832 will touch. Go 832. And now it's like, if I don't get this lift, this whole experiment is I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
832 comes down, and dude, I would have benched 900 that day on that moment. It went so fast, I thought the judges took the bar. That's what I thought happened.
Yeah.
That's how fast it was. And I remember walking off the stage like in disbelief that I got white lights. And I was like, if the heaviest lift I've ever done is the easiest lift I've ever done, I want no part of this anymore. Because the gear was surpassing the athlete,
Right.
you know? And there was always those guys that couldn't bench 400 raw that could bench 800 in a shirt.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing always pissed me off. But that's the rules, so that's how you play. But I just fell more in love with the raw of like proving myself because, dude, I think that was the answer. I was trying to prove myself to myself and to everyone else at the same time. Like it's a hard mountain to climb, really. It's this constant approval by what you're doing. But I was trying. So I went to the raw side and just fell in love with that and started carving out a name for myself a little bit in that realm. And that led me to the backyard meet of the century, really, where my name got put on the map in the raw world. But
Right.
I'll give you another question since that was a 20-minute answer.
No, that's perfect. I'm gonna throw Zin in so we can unpack some of that. Are you
Yeah,
are you a nicotine guy?
dude, I am crippling nicotine guy. I I can throw four of those sixes in right now and enjoy life.
Yeah, it's funny. I took a year off a couple years back. I had a little cardiovascular scare, and I took a year off from caffeine and nicotine, and then I put a 3 milligram Zin in for the first time, and it was like I was like just reintroduced to the magic of nicotine. You've been doing it for so many years, you're just kind of numb
Yeah.
to it. It's just the oral fixation. But after a year off, I was bouncing off the walls. I was euphoric. It was like, this is amazing. So anyone listening, I recommend take a little off period from nicotine and come back to it, and you'll fall in love with it again all over.
That's what they say about weed too. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's one of the pioneers in that realm of psychedelics and whatnot. But he was like, don't do it daily. He was like, take weeks off at a time and set a ceremony date where you literally buy as much weed as you can and smoke it all. And then he's like, that's where you get into a psychedelic side of marijuana, not
Yeah.
just the stony, trippy. But yeah, I definitely know like when you desensitize the body to something and then blast it with something, like the effects are insane.
I and we will get into some plant medicine stuff here, and just as while we're on it, I went to Houston, Texas for a year, and I moved out there, and I'd been a nighttime smoker, helped me sleep, and I get out here and I don't have a guy out there anymore. So I'm like, they're selling this legal, Delta 9 stuff, and I'd never tried it, and I'd tried like a hemp joint or CBD and stuff. I kind of assumed it'd be like that. So I roll this fat joint, like a full gram of this THCA Delta 9, and I just burn it down in like 30 seconds, thinking like I'm gonna have to smoke this whole thing to feel anything. Little do
Yeah.
I know, it's essentially just marijuana that they've navigated some loophole to where it meets some
Yeah. You got to
criteria.
heat it
Yeah,
before it becomes
exactly.
potent.
And
Yeah.
I just find myself in I was like, did I just take 5 grams of mushrooms? It was like this full on, just like psychedelic experience. I'm full on panic attack, anxiety. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I learned quickly that the Delta 9 THCA stuff, no, it's just as potent as as any weed you'll ever smoke.
Yeah, it's a weird workaround because as it is, it's non psychedelic. But once you introduce heat, it
Yeah.
becomes psychedelic. And Delta 9 is the pure psychedelic of marijuana, or the brain affecting potency. Like Delta 8, I think does things. Some of the other, I'm not a botanist by any stretch, but I've smoked some good weed. So.
Yeah, yeah. I walked in from the garage and I'm just like pupils like this. My wife is like, "What is going on?" I'm like, "Clear my schedule. The day is over for me. I need to sit
Let's
down."
eat.
Yeah. But anyway, man, I want to unpack your story there because there's a few things there. I want to go back to that coach who got you on the chest press and just
Hmm.
had that heart to heart with you. It just, when it comes to coaching, when I got into football strength and conditioning, I was a programming nerd. I was a training junkie. I wanted the impact we could have as strength and conditioning coaches on the team to be the training, the program, the X's and O's, the technique, and all that. And over the years of my time in college football, particularly, I walked away from it realizing, man, it's not even about that. Our biggest impact on the team, it's all the intangible stuff. It's
Hmm.
the connection we can make with the players, the trust we can build with them, and we build that trust, and then we can take them beyond limits that they didn't know they had. We can push them. We can instill just that grit and that heart and all those intangible factors. So I learned quickly that, man, the art of coaching, just it's so much more impactful than anything you'll learn in a textbook or on a piece of paper. And so hearing that the coach who had that impact on you, that's what that says to me. I'm like, man, that guy just has that art of coaching where he can connect with an individual on a level that just unlocks something in them that
Yeah.
that elicited more out of you than any program or X's and O's ever could have done.
Right. Yeah, I think that's one of the most important aspects of being a coach is you're part director, part counselor, part friend, part like whatever you need to be for that person. And I've said it I mean, many times and for a number of years, is that I would rather have a player or an athlete that believed in me and my program more so than writing a perfect program.
Yeah.
And the reason being, there's no perfect program without application. We were just talking about this in the deadlift. Dr. McGill was talking about some guy coming in and wanting to be able to deadlift, a PR. Let's say he's 50 year old, and he's like, "Well, what about just focusing on playing with your grandchildren?" And I did a conference in Toronto with Dr. McGill, and we had a very professional discussion, disagreement, agreement kind of situation where he had really never considered things that I had never considered from his side. Whereas I believe if you do an exercise properly with the right focus and attention for your needs, there's no exercise that's dangerous. Like if you're not trying to overreach, if you're not trying to do something silly, there's every exercise has a quality application if you're creative enough, right? And that's what I look at as coaches is being able to understand the athlete and respect what they need and then be there for them through that. Like, here's the plan. I'm going to be your cheerleader through this program. And the more you do that, like you see it all the time, and I've done it as a coach too. Like I thought my word was so good because the results of mine were so good and the other results of my other clients, I'm like, here's your 10 weeks. Let's talk every Friday. And that's enough. And I learned some guys will fly with that because they're like, oh, I got to prove it to him. I got to
Mm-hmm.
prove that I'm doing it. And other people are like, well, he's not helping me. So I had to adapt as a coach too, because just because I wanted it doesn't mean that every client wants it at the same level. So just getting an email to me was like, this is my law for the week. This is what I do. Whereas somebody else gets it and they're like, well, is he gonna call me today? Is he gonna help me out through this? And it's just understanding your client before they become a client and then having them understand you as a coach and then having that discussion. So I think coaching is such a critical element, and the people that do it really well, they're not just coaches. They're phenomenal human beings, like
Absolutely.
just well-rounded people, you know?
I like to give a shout out to a guy I worked for who I learned a lot from. His name's Daryl Bauer. He's currently the head strength and conditioning coach at Troy University. He was previously the director at Houston. Sorenex installed I was installed the weight room over at Troy, and Daryl's a friend of Sorenex. But anyway, he had this philosophy. Uh, Circling back to the samurai, where the samurai would have two swords. They'd have their long sword and their short sword. One was the long
Hmm.
sword for defense, the short sword for offense, the kill sword. And his analogy was the strength coach, or really any coach, has two swords. Their long sword, that's the science, that's the X's and O's. The kill
Yep.
sword, that is all the intangibles. That's your ability to develop trust, to instill discipline and
Hmm.
toughness and connect with your athletes and get the most out of the guys. And we always had this philosophy of we got to keep both swords sharp, right?
Yeah.
There's the art and there's the science of coaching. And you see some coaches who are great on one end, maybe weak on the other, or vice versa. But the best ones are the ones who got both those short swords sharp. But man, if I had to choose one at this point in my career, I'm choosing the art. At least
Yeah.
if you're dealing with athletes, you're dealing with the genetically elite for sure. Your ability to get the most out of that guy, build that trust, get them to just sell out for you, buy into the program. That's going to be so much more important than the
Hmm.
optimal program on paper.
Yeah. Well, I had a guy put it to me this way, and it's perfect analogy to what you're talking about. But he said when you go to church as a non-believer, you can hear an amazing story. You can hear a parable or a fable or something that connects with you and resonates with the human experience, and you can be like, "Man, I really gained something today." But if you go in there as a believer, that's a different feeling. That's a different process once you leave that message. Like, how do you take that message forward into your life, not just reflect on it from your life to this point?
Yeah.
Like those kind of things. And that's the same deal with training. When I get an athlete that I don't hear from after they've trained, it starts to tell me that, like, one of two things: either they're so good on their own that I'm just here for like support, or maybe they're disconnected and they don't know how to communicate with me at a level that is good for both of us. Like sometimes people think, oh my God, I respect you so much, I don't want to bother you.
Right.
And being a coach, that maybe I should send them the email first. Hey, how was training? So I started doing those little things because I'm more of a solo guy. Like, you tell me to do it, I'm going to do it. I need to do it, I'll do it. But I've learned that not everyone meets me where I'm at, and I have to meet them where they are as a coach. But dude, coaching is like, there's only so many exercises. There's only so many, implements and squat rack and bench press. There's only so many things. So it really is like a painter's palette of there's a limited spectrum, right?
Right.
But what we do with that spectrum and how we manipulate it and bond things and pair things and superset or drop set or whatever it is, that's the art. The ability for you to be artistic with your program and make it flow and make it good, dude. That's a specialty all of itself. And one cool thing about staffs, because I worked at UK for a little while, Kentucky, and what I saw was Kentucky had a really good blend. That was when Eric Corum was there,
Yeah.
back in those days. So very high science, very, very like pushing towards that, GPS stuff, all the data tracking. And then you had more of the dogged kind of head down, push hard kind of coaches. But on a staff, that can work because you got a little bit of a good cop, bad cop
Yes.
kind of
Yeah.
flow in the gym. And you need some of that too, because there were definitely guys on the team that were, inner city kids, tatted all up.
Hmm.
And, squeaky clean coach comes over here and talks to him. He's like, man, that's a bitch ass. Get out of here. Like, he's not going to listen to that guy. But me, I go over there. They know I can lift. They know I want them to succeed. And I'm a dog with them. Like, I'm not going to just tell them to do stuff. A lot of times I jump in with them. So that was my strong point, was connecting with these kids that didn't want to part anybody else, because I was just like them. So it was like talking to those kids with my forte, and then the other kids bought in. So it's funny how a staff can like
Yeah.
flow and elevate
and
like
and,
that.
and when you're the head guy, you're the leader of in this case the strength and conditioning staff. Assembling a staff like that and putting in those different pieces, kind of having some diversity whether it's diversity of ethnicity or diversity of personalities and upbringings. That's big. You don't want to
Yeah.
have just the same archetype guy across the board, because inevitably there's going to be a subset of the team that you're not reaching with those. Whereas
Yeah.
if you've got that kind of diverse staff, there's kind of a guy who can connect with different pockets of players, and then that staff functions as a unit, and that's kind of when the magic happens.
Yep.
Speaking of the intangible stuff, I always hear about West Side, and I'm always curious to hear from a guy who actually trained at West Side.
Yeah.
You'll hear people say it wasn't really about the methodology necessarily. It was about the fact that it was just a group of absolute savages in there
Yeah.
just pushing each other. Would you agree with that? Would you chalk the success of West Side in its prime up to the Louis Simmons methodology more, or the environment more?
Well, I'll put it to you this way. I won't answer that question, but I'll answer that question in another form.
Okay.
All right. I have seen the West Side method in gyms done to the letter, and people get better. They were not the guys at West Side,
Right.
and that's not a dickhead statement. That's not belittling anyone, but I think the methodology is sound. Like
Right.
the methodology will get you there. But if you do not have a do or die, I will kill myself, I will kill you, I will kill them, I will do everything in my power to lift one more ounce, not one more pound, not a PR, one more ounce. That is your statement forever in your head is I need to be 1 ounce stronger every single thing that I can do. And with that comes you walk into, let's say you walk into, you're a football guy. So let's say you walk into Brown Stadium day one after the draft. How motivated are you to win the Super Bowl? Or how realistic are you thinking that I've got to prepare as if I'm going to win the Super Bowl? What about the 2002 Patriots? If you got drafted by them and they're like, hey, you're going to be our starting tight end or lineman or whatever, what is your approach then? I've got to get ready for the Super Bowl. So I think that's a very different mentality question about the methodology. Some of these gyms wanted to get better for the sake of getting better. The guys at Westside had already proven that they could get better,
Yeah.
and they are at the level of best. And the guy training beside them come Saturday is going to be the guy that they're competing with for the title of the best, the title of having your name put on that board in Westside. I mean, methodology sound, no markdowns, no takeaways, no deductions for methodology. There's a reason that people couldn't train there.
Yeah.
There's a reason that people moved there and couldn't stay there. There's a reason I couldn't stay there. I mean, I made it, but even though I was getting better and I had won a meet the day before, my distraction, whatever that level was bad for the gym. So you're out. So I understood that after I left, not before I was there, because I was like, I'm the man. You brought me here. Let me do my thing. And then afterwards, it was like, no, this was the thing. You were a part of it, and now you're not.
Right.
So that was a very, very kind of a early wake up call for me. But yeah, West Side's just a different cut of people. I mean, I'm not going to say they're all like some of these guys, myself included. I've wondered how I was so good at something and seemingly have fucked up so many other things in my life because I approach everything the same way. Like I'm the guy that puts my head down and will run through a wall to get the result that I want. So it's like I know I've got that in me, but where else have I shown it? And I have, but just like to the level of some of these guys have gone on and done, amazing in life. They've got careers, they've got other things that are perfect. And then other guys are still searching for, where can I get my next lift in?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not judging either one of them because I'm somewhere in the middle of both of those guys. It's
Yeah.
like, where do I fit in now? But it's a different place, and it was different because of the people in it.
I'm curious, just sort of the process of entry. So you're out there in that small gym, you're clanging and banging with what'd you say, 7 dudes who went on to total
Mm-hmm.
2,000 pounds, and then from there you get a call, an
Well,
invite
that's
to.
not only the only one. That's the first one. So when I went back to Kentucky, we had another gym that ended up having 7 or 8 guys total over 2,000 pounds. One over 23, 2 over 22, 1 over 21, and the rest were 2,000.
Yeah, well, what's the saying? You're the sum of the however many people you surround yourself with. So clearly, you surrounding yourself throughout your entire career with
Yeah.
just consistently some of the best. I'm sure that
No.
helped propel you to where you
Oh,
are.
well, it's the thing is like second tier when I came back after being in Columbus back to Kentucky, I had a reputation to uphold,
Yeah.
around the guys that knew me back when. And there were some of the guys like, oh, he's falling off. Some of the guys were like, oh, I want to train with him. But again, I had to prove myself to everyone. So I was not going to fail. Like I was going to, if I could train with you, I was going to give you everything I had as far as a training partner. I was going to load your plates. I was going to coach you up, but I needed it back. And fortunately, guys were so hungry, and it wasn't just me. It was, I kind of walked into a team, but those guys were so hungry that when I came in and I could share, like, this is all possible, guys. It's just time and repetition. We just got to do it and do it and do it. And it wasn't just me. Like, I don't want to paint any picture that it was me. It wasn't whatever. We were doing cube method and cube method variations. But again, I had a ton of people do the cube method that didn't get results,
Right.
that didn't get, pro level results. But it worked when you have the right group of people. And sometimes that doesn't mean that you like each other. But for a training environment, if you get each other better, you respect each other.
Right.
And that was the case every gym I was in. I didn't like very many people that were there. I didn't get along outside of the gym with very many people there. But for an hour and a half or 2 hours, we were dogs. And that's just the way I operated. And that's probably why I burned so many bridges because dude, if you stopped helping me, I'll find somebody else that will. So I churned through a lot of training partners like that, which I'm not proud of now, but at the same time, it was like I was trying to get where I was going. And a lot of people, stayed with me and got where they were going.
Look, the reality is, I say this all the time. If you're trying to be the best in the world at anything, whether it's lifting, it's a sport, whether you're trying to dominate as a CEO in business, you don't have balance in your life.
No.
You're ruining relationships. You're stepping on toes. The road to the top of anything is a road of destroying things in your path, and that's just
Yeah.
the reality of it.
Yep.
So,
Yep. No, I've been a tornado for myself. I mean, just the amount of hard effort that I've given to things. I was talking about this the other day and it's totally off subject, but I had a hunt in Arizona, 28-hour drive. I made it in 30 hours. Got out on the mountain, killed a bull, and drove back 30 hours. So, no sleep. Well, I slept the night that I killed the bull,
yeah,
but you know what I mean? Like, that's just how I am. Getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go train at Westside 3 days a week makes perfect fucking sense to me. Like, it didn't seem like my parents were like, "Are you crazy? Like, what is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "That's the best place to train. So it's 3 hours away. Like, if I wouldn't drive 3 hours to meet God, like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm driving 3 hours to pursue the best I can be in my life.
yeah.
Would you drive 3 hours to pursue the best you could be 3 days a week? I know guys that drive 3 hours every day that aren't doing anything. You know what I mean? So that's always how I rationalize it. Is it worth it if it was the most important thing in the world? Yeah, it is.
Guys, thank you for tuning in and supporting the podcast. I just wanted to take a minute to give a shout out over to my guys at Troponin Supplements. So they're the sponsor of the podcast, and in my opinion, they carry the best supplements on the market, and it's not even close. And they're the one company that I've wanted to align myself with. As a nutrition coach working with NFL football players, other professional athletes, strongman competitors, bodybuilders, powerlifters, fitness enthusiasts, endurance athletes, I have to be very particular about any supplement company I endorse. And with Troponin Supplements, frankly, it was a no-brainer. These are the products I've been using myself for the last few years before I ever became involved with the company. I know the owner personally, Justin Harris. He is one of the brilliant minds in the bodybuilding industry, and we've talked, and all he has wanted to do is just bring some of the elite top-of-the-line products to the market, and that's what he's done. So these are the products I recommend and endorse to all my athletes, all my clients. I use myself, and I want to pass this along to you guys as well. So I'm going to highlight a couple products here. First and foremost, we've got the ATP. This is a high dose of caffeine paired with a very powerful nootropic. I take this before work. I take this before I podcast. This is going to give you a great boost in mood, in focus, memory enhancement. You're just going to feel like you took the Limitless pill when you use ATP. It's an effervescent tablet. You drop it in your water, it dissolves, tastes great. The next product, Field Rations. This is the premier intra-workout supplement on the market right now. It's a one-stop shop for all your intra-workout needs. It's based in highly branched cyclic dextrin, contains essential amino acids, electrolytes, tastes amazing. I use this within every training session. Then we've got the Suppressor Max. This is awesome for controlling your blood sugar. It's got a high dose of berberine, but then has complementary ingredients that are going to keep the berberine bioavailable and stay in your system longer. This is the best blood sugar product on the market. If you're bulking, if you're eating a ton of food, if you're using a cheat meal, this is a great product for you. And then finally, I love this one. I've always had sleep issues. Hit the Rack. This is one of the best sleep products I've ever tried. I use it about 30 minutes before bed most nights, and this has been the one supplement that has actually helped me fall asleep and stay asleep. And then of course, we got the Troponin T logo bodybuilding jersey and the hat. We've got great apparel on the site. So guys, check out Troponin supplements. You can find the link in the show notes, in the bio, or you can simply just Google Troponin supplements. Use code HECK, capital HECK, at checkout for a discount. Check them out, guys. These are some of the best products on the market. Yeah, most people never have that. They never have something that they just pursue with a passion and a willingness to give everything for it. Most people have no aspiration to be great at anything. And then it's such this like alien foreign concept to them when they see other people pursuing something like that. Like with me, like my diet, people see me break out the Tupperware meals and it's like they look at me like I'm a leper, like I'm a creature from another planet. And they're like, come on, man, just like cut loose. I'm like, you don't understand. Like I'm trying to be different. Like I'm pursuing something. And people,
have you always been that way? I mean, like even as a kid and stuff?
I really found that when I found lifting, to be honest.
Yeah.
I kind of got pushed into football because I don't want to say it. Life pushed me into football because I grew up in a football household. My dad, he played 12 years in the NFL. He's an NFL coach. I was a big kid. I was sort of predestined for football, and it was never my love. It was never my passion. I did it.
Powerlifting wasn't mine either.
Yeah. But I
never liked powerlifting.
I fell in love with training though. And when I found lifting, you know, it was just something there that we did to, help become better football players. But to me, it was my everything. And then I finally made the decision. I was like, you know what? College is ending. I've got an opportunity to go to the NFL. I don't need to do this. I can make a choice. Right. I can walk away from football and just go pursue the thing I love, which is what I did. I hung it up after my final game in college, turned down every scout. I turned down my invite to the Senior Bowl, Pro Day, all that stuff. I was like, I want to get into strength and conditioning. I want to get into powerlifting and strongman. And once I made that decision, then everything changed for me. I found this confidence in myself. And from then on, I was just pursuing my thing, my road with just everything I had. I just became this all or nothing mentality. And then that stuck with me from there.
Well, man, I applaud you for that because one, I think I've always been this way. Like I remember when we were kids, we had a 1 mile loop that I grew up on. It was Apache Drive. And it was a 1 mile loop. It had a bunch of hills on it and stuff. We were kids and we would ride it. And I just remember one day they're like, hey, you want to go ride your bikes? I was like, yeah, I want to do 100 miles. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, if we ride this circle 100 times, it's 100 miles. So we did it. Like we rode it 100 times just because that was what we said we were going to do. But it seemed like immediately right after that, it was like, we need to do like 200 miles someday, but it was always that.
Yeah.
So when I got into the lifting, one, I think I was good at it. Like I naturally had an inclination towards form, towards different aspects of lifting. I grew, like I said, it was like I looked at a weight and I put muscle on. Even to this day, I'm 225 this morning, and I have to like curb any heavy progressive weight if I want to stay this weight because in 6 weeks I'll be 240. No question. So I'm an easy gainer. But what I realized was I love the training, I love the guys, and I liked competing. But then I realized that I didn't love it, but it was what I was good at, and people were celebrating me for it, and it was kind of like I followed that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it became like, okay, you've got this chance, you got to run with it. So I loved the process of it. I mean, obviously I did it at a very high level and was dedicated to it, but it wasn't like I'd never imagined the moment where I took my shoes off and stuck them on the platform, like this long storied career kind of thing. Like I never envisioned more than the next 10 weeks. Like that was part of my problem too, because I wasn't trying to build a career. I was trying to survive, really. I had a method out. I was doing seminars. If you go away, those things go away. You stop selling ebooks, you stop doing seminars. So the train just kept going. to where that I would literally take every speaking opportunity that I could. I would coach for free if it meant going somewhere and just keeping my name out there. And then you kind of become a slave to it in a sense, to where the lifting was like suffering because of the business side of it. You know, I'm leaving on Thursday night to get there for Friday's lift so I can coach them on Saturday, flying back Sunday, getting in late on Monday. And then it's like, I don't even want to lift Monday, so I'll skip that day and I'll train Tuesday. So my lifting just jumbled all around. I was traveling 40 weekends a year doing seminars. And it just, that really started to wear down on me a lot. Was like, I can't go this pace forever. But nobody else was, but I was. You know, I was doing a max effort lift 13 times a year on display.
Yeah.
But that was how I felt. I keep saying it and I'm beating a dead horse, but there was a proving ground in my mind somewhere in my past or a past life or something. Somebody didn't believe in me enough. And I've spent the 43 years that I've been on this earth in this life trying to prove it to somebody. And I don't know if I ever will. Like I feel like writer's block for success, if that makes sense. Like I feel like, well, I was 5 years old in kindergarten. My kindergarten teacher asked me what I wanted to be, and I said great. Like I didn't say I wanted to be a fireman or an
Yeah.
astronaut. I said I want to be great. You know, so I've always been a little odd turned in that regard. Like like sitting here right now, I believe my life has seen nothing of what's to come.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but my whole life I've kind of had that belief, and every iteration of my life has gotten better, or I've done amazing things. So I'm hoping the ride keeps going. You know, it's like I'm still finding things about myself, you know, things about my interests and little curiosities that become passions, or little curiosities that become rejections. I mean, all these little things. It's just I'm at an interesting point in my life because I've done so much, but I feel like I've done nothing.
Yeah, man, it's kind of cliche. It's like just having this mysterious road ahead of you where you feel like there's just things you haven't attained yet, things that you're chasing after, and it might be something new. Like that's what drives me. I was actually, I saw a therapist for a little bit, and I'm in a therapy session. I'm talking about my endeavors as a coach and business and training, and she asked me, she was kind of like, what's like the end goal? Like where, when will it be enough? Like, when will you have thought like you've made it? And I'm like, never. That if I
Yeah.
reach that point where I'm like, that's it, that's good enough. Like that's when that's where I go to die. Like
Do
for
you think so? I mean, do you think? Because I wrestle with this a lot myself. Because it's like I wish I could be like just sit down on the couch some days and just turn it all off and not have my head going 600 miles an hour, three different directions. Like I wish I could just be like, oh, the news is good. I'm glad the news is on.
man, it's
You know,
like I always think that's what I want. It'd be like, I'm working in football, we're grinding, and we have this vacation coming up. We're finally about to get like 2 weeks off. We never get that. And then I'm 3 days into this vacation. I'm sitting there and I'm just bored.
yeah, yeah,
I what do I do with my life now? So no, I kind of thrive in that like mind churning a million miles an hour. There's all this stuff, there's pressure. And when you're in it, you're kind of like, God, I'd love a break. I'd love just to be able to relax and turn off. And then you get that, and then you realize, this really isn't that fulfilling. This is just boring.
you,
There's no
you know what a
stimulus.
guy told me? You know what a guy told me about that?
What?
And this is because I was the same way as you. I said the same things. Like I remember when we'd be training for a meet, we'd have the meet. I would always have like a trip or something, just something to get away. And dude, I would get there and I would have a great first day. And then I would be like, I want to get back for the gym. And dude, think about that seriously. Like, think about that as like if you were looking at your dad, you know, or my dad or anybody, you see this old man out there and he's working his dick in the dirt. And it's not because he has to, it's not because he needs the money or whatever. He's just working himself into the ground because that's what he's always done. You know, he doesn't know any other way. And a guy asked me one time, he was a therapist, but he wasn't mine. But he said, you know what happens when people get bored when they shouldn't be? He said they're afraid to quiet everything off that they're trying not to escape from. So, like, if you are at work and you're busting ass in the weight room and you have this 2 week vacation, all you can think about is work while you're on your vacation. All you
Yeah.
can think about is these other things. So he put it to me as like, you're unable to just enjoy still. And dude, that's a scary thought for me because I'm 43. How old are you?
31.
Okay. So I think at 31, I was dead set, feet in hard cement, exactly how you are. At 43, my life has navigated to me to a point where it's like I will always go hard, but I am trying to learn the process of this is where I am right now. Like this is a dinner with friends, or this is an event with friends, and not thinking about everything else, just being at that dinner or with those people or in this moment. And again, that sounds cliche too, but I really did learn that I wasn't comfortable with myself unless I was doing things that made me feel like I was getting better. But
Yes.
sometimes
Yeah.
I have learned for myself that getting better, I need a pressure release like every once in a while. It's not a week, but like I need a day where there's very little of anything.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to think about training. I don't want to think about this or this. I just need a day where, like last Saturday, watch some football, cook out on the grill, sit outside, shoot my bow. Like perfect day. Resume everything else the next day. But that for me, it's I'm one day at a time. You know what I mean? Every single thing I do is one day at a time. But that's where I'm at 43 is yeah, I wanted to get there. I wanted to climb this mountain and achieve some success metric. And the harder I pushed, the closer I might have gotten, but the less I felt like myself. The
Yeah.
less I felt connected to the people that mattered, the less I felt it was worth it. And that's a hard thing to explain, like hard effort is always worth it to some degree, but like what's an extra $10,000 this year going to mean to my myself, to my life, to my people? Like, what is that going to actually do? Is it 100,000? Is it a million? Is it 20 more hours at home? Is it 20 more hours away? Like, there is no balance. But finding a point where what you're doing is rationally good enough is a hard place to get to.
Yeah.
Like I've done enough for this 24-hour period. Let's rest and then go. I mean, even the Bible talks about it, how the importance of rest, and this mentality. And dude, I'm guilty of it too. Go, 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 go. Get up at 4 o'clock. Well, I'm getting up at 3:30 because everybody else is getting up at 4. We can burn ourselves out so quickly for this forever chase of success, or you can kind of listen to some of these guys that have got everything under the sun, and they're like, I wish I had more time with my family. I wish I had
Yeah.
more time with this. Because at 31, dude, I was just like you. I could not wait to get back to what I needed to be doing from where I should have just been recharging myself.
And Brandon, like if there's anything in my life I know that I need to develop the ability to do, it's what you just said. It's find the ability to truly be present and find satisfaction in those still moments. And that's why I went to therapy. Like I want to be
Yeah.
able to find the ability to do that. It's like, I want to be able to go visit my family and be there and just be present with them and not 12 hours into it, I'm just thinking about getting back home. It's not because I don't cherish my family members. I love them all, but it's like when I lose this, like I feel this like stagnation, like especially when
Dude.
I went into business for myself, this past year, and there's this, nobody's telling me what to do. My success rides
Yeah.
completely on me and me alone. That just cranked up the sense of urgency so high to where it's so hard to just shut off. I'm like, should I be doing something else? I'm trying to be the best at what I'm doing. There's no schedule. No one's telling me what to do. Like should I be putting out more content? Should I schedule another podcast guest? Should I do this or that? You know what I mean? And I'm trying to get better. I'll tell you what and you and I talked about it. This is going to be a little bit of a segue here, but one of the only ways I've truly just found peace and stillness in the mundane moment was with psilocybin.
Mhm.
And and for listeners, I don't want to get on here and endorse drug use, but I do. It's an interesting topic, and just I think there's a lot of interesting therapeutic application with some of these psychedelics. But I know you've had some experiences with psilocybin or DMT, ayahuasca, and things like that.
Yeah.
Have you found those have helped shift your perspective in some of these areas?
Man, I'll tell you. So the first mushroom trip that I ever did with intention of outside of like a college party and you're just sitting around with some friends listening to music or whatever, like here, eat this. It was, I was in Columbus. I was training at West Side. Actually, I was just out of West Side. And so kind of like a good time. I didn't know this, but as a person going through ups and downs, that's a good time to experience psilocybin. So a lot of questions in my head, a lot of thoughts. Dude, I will never forget. And this is a great story for for the Q method. So I ended up meeting two buddies of mine, and one of them brought some mushrooms. And he's like, "These are great." He's like, "Just take some, and you'll feel good." Well, I take kind of half of what he gave me, and I'm sitting there, and the old 30 minutes, like I don't feel anything. I don't feel anything. What the hell? So I down them. I eat everything. And I texted him. I was like, I didn't feel anything, so I took the rest. He was like, well, you better buckle up because that was like 4 trips worth. So I never will forget. As soon as I read that message, I was like, yeah, whatever. And then it was like my stomach started grumbling, like getting a little bit of that early nausea.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit. But I'd taken some advice. I had some cool music playing. I had like a little charcuterie board of fruits, and I had some juice. And the citric acid helps it kind
Yeah.
of take up a little quicker too. So I sipped some orange juice, ate an apple slice or whatever, and was like, all right, we're gonna enjoy this thing. Dude, 5 minutes later, my ass is butt ass naked on the floor. I'd taken a shower
Uh,
and I had a towel on. So I'm laying on this floor, and it's like it's a nice apartment, but it's got that like apartment carpet, it's like a little taller and a little
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
shaggier than the rest. And I'm laying on this thing and I'm making like snow angels in this carpet. Well, I can see the little fibers of dust. And the cool thing about psilocybin is like my memories from this time are blazed into my memory. Like if you could experience life on psilocybin every day, you would never forget anything. Or at least that's the way I feel. Like they're just burned in there. So I'm sitting here doing this, and these little embers of the carpet are like floating around me, and they start to weave a cocoon around my body. And dude, I feel so warm and safe. And I'm looking outside, and it's like pitch black dark, stars are everywhere. And it was like I was ascending towards space. So here I am, I'm going through, and I'm right at this level of ozone because it was like pure black. And I felt like I was just like Superman, just like laying flat out, just being risen up. But I was flying 1,000 miles an hour. And then I get to like what I perceived as ozone and space beyond me, right? And I'm in this gaseous space, and then I see these clouds like start rolling. Three Indians on a horseback ride up to me. It was Magua from The Last of the Mohicans. So that was when I was a kid. He terrified my dreams. Magua terrified my dreams from the time I was a child. He comes to me and he says, "You've lost your spirit. You're a warrior and you've lost your way." And he took his face paint and put it on mine, and it was blood. And he put it on my face and then shoved me back. And it was like I went back all through space, through everything, and I landed in the ocean. And I was so deep in this water, and it was like disorienting. I couldn't see anything, and then it was like I saw this little pinhole, like of just light, but it was so minute. And dude, I remember just hard as I could, I felt like I was swimming towards the surface, and I felt like I was chasing a light, not getting closer to it. So I'm there and I'm there and I'm like right at the surface and I can see it. And when I came out, I like put my hands out and like pushed out of the water. It was the most electric color had ever looked. It was the most sound had ever like I could hear the wind,
Yeah.
but like at a roar, just everything was amplified. And that thing, you've lost your way, you've lost your way, you've lost your way, just kept repeating. And I was like trying to focus on that. And it was like, the training's not good. The training's not good. So just all these little things just kept harmonizing in my head. Woke up the next morning after that trip and wrote the Q method, start to bottom, 10 weeks. And,
Wow.
but that was just like, that was the beginning of, I'd lost my way because my only way at that time was training. So that's all I could attach it to. But what I've noticed with sometimes psilocybin is I get like deja vu moments for weeks after. Like, are we in a matrix? Because I just saw this in my dream and I just saw that sign in real life. Like, am I on the right path? So not to sound all cryptic and whatever, but it was like I started feeling like I was getting reinforcements that I was on the right trail, and beyond the training, because at first that's all my head could think about. But in the aftermath, I started applying things to myself. Like it was crazy, but that's one really, really deep story about it and how it came to the Q method. But I think beyond the visuals, beyond the experiences, it's those feelings that you get that you can't replace without that. It's an opening of the mind that you can't tap into necessarily until you learn the pathway. Because I feel like after you do it, a little bit of the track is laid, like it's there, and if you seek it out, you'll find it again.
Right.
So like empathy, sympathy, understanding, kindness, those things became very apparent that they were lacking in my life. And through that was like other trips that I did that were very, very kind of fixated on my relationship with the world around me, my relationship with people. Other things became about self, just very, very introspective. DMT was a good one. Ayahuasca was pretty scary because it was long form.
Right.
It just felt really, really depleting. But that was one of the best parts about it, was because you basically feel like you've given everything up. Like you've expunged everything that was in your stomach. Um, your mind has gone a million miles an hour, and you just feel like, I mean, I literally felt like a starved dog, like a little dog when it was over. It was like anything would have been the best meal or the best drink or the best handshake or hug, or everything was going to be amazing from that point. And that's how I feel like the ayahuasca was it stripped me down. I tried to beat me down, beat me down, beat me down, until you're kind of looking at a real disassembled model of who you are. Like, this is exactly who you are. And if we put these pieces back together, this is your life.
Right.
And that was like, holy shit to me. Was it really is just little things out throughout our life, and having the ability to beat down whatever demon is inside me that has made me volatile for myself, for people around me. I didn't feel like it was gone. I feel like I learned that now I have to wrestle with it, and now I have to face these things down.
Yeah, I always tell people, if you're going to do this, treat it with respect. Don't go do it at some fucking party. Don't,
Yeah,
clear your schedule, do it at home in a safe environment, and go into it with some purpose. And
yeah,
don't go into it expecting some fun, thrilling experience. No, go in, you're gonna laugh, you're gonna cry, you're gonna be faced with every gambit of the emotional spectrum there is. And if there's something that is weighing on your soul, you are probably going to come face to face with that thing. And
yeah,
I've had multiple experiences, and I would, to your point with the citrus, I would always do a lemon tech. I would marinate
yeah,
grind it up, marinate it in lemon juice, and then make a tea out of it, and it would all
yep,
come on pretty quickly. But some of my lower dose experiences, it was all just, I found stillness in the moment. I found beauty in, I was brought to tears I was looking at a raspberry, and just the observing the raspberry, it literally brought me to tears, the beauty of it, and just seeing the trees and hearing the wind. And it kind of like hits you in waves. It's like it kind of wears off. You're like, is it over? And then it hits you again, but it kind of takes you down a different hallway. And then I was realizing I just had this overwhelming feeling. I've not been a good enough older brother to my younger sisters. I need to reach out to them. And my memories, it was just like a Rolodex of memories. I could pull out any memory, and I was there. I could smell it. I could feel it. And I had one experience, the true, the hero's journey dose, where you lose full ego death, full disconnection. And that was something that was jarring. And I remember I had this epiphany moment. I sat up. I was like I'd figured something out, the answer to everything. And but then it was like fleeting. It was getting away from me. And to this day, I don't remember what it was. I was on the cusp of it, but I couldn't quite interpret it and retain it. And it was so frustrating. Um,
yeah.
it was like
Did you ever? Did you feel like you fought it, or were you open to accepting the medicine? I guess I'll word it that way. You know what I mean? Like, did you fight the internal feelings, the mental space?
when I
Like,
took
did you try to stay in control?
when I took the big dose, I had a moment where I kind of got freaked out, and I was trying to fight
Yeah,
it. And I caught myself in this loop where I was listening to the song, and I was like, I've listened to this song 3 times in a row. I need to change the song. I've been sitting here in the same place. And then all of a sudden the song would play again. And I'd be like, I need to get up and move. I've been here listening to the same song on repeat. And the song played again and it played again. And I was just locked. And then I got into this like, is this the real world? Or is the real world the fake world? And I got into this really weird loop. And then I was like, okay, I kind of just like let go. And then things kind of moved on. But there was a moment there where I was trying to like grasp for reality, grasp for control, and that's when things started to get scary.
I had a guy tell me, and he put it this way. He was like, an open door is easy to walk through. A hard door is, or a locked door will beat it down.
Yeah.
And he was saying that was the way the psilocybin is. If you're open to tell me the truth, tell me who I am, show me my faults, show me my weaknesses, give me confidence through my strengths, and are willing to really mean that, I have nothing but good experiences. The times where I feel like I'm the shit and I've got stuff going well and I'm just doing this because, oh, it's the time to do it. That's when I kind of get ravaged. And it's like, no, 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 no. Remember, you're nothing.
Right.
You're nothing. You're a good nothing, but you're nothing. And in the sense of everything, like in the sense of everything, you know, it's the Buddhist mentality. Like if you kill an ant, you took a life, that kind of thing. Everything has a purpose here. I just watched the thing on Instagram. I'm not a big scroller, but I am terrible. These Chinese accounts that they do the traditional food or traditional pottery. Have you seen these?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this guy, it was kind of like that, but he simulated what Africa would have looked like in a herpetarium for 100 days from the beginning. So first day, sterile sand. He introduces like ants at day two and all these other little things, and you see this ecosystem grow. And without any of the other pieces, the others wouldn't be there. And you think about life like that, or I do. I think about life like that. Like, what would my life be without other humans here? What would it actually be like? Well, my life I know is enhanced by having other humans here. What would my life be like without trees here? Well, there would be no life. So when you start going down this rabbit hole of what does life mean and what is the value of a life, well, an ant's life may not mean very much to me, but to his colony, it means everything. And those kind of things get real trippy for me
Yeah.
about my value for someone who could be pointed at and said, oh, he's a selfish asshole or he's this or he's that. The overwhelming feeling I get is I am nothing, as in nothing more than anything else here. I'm just a part of this thing, and I get to celebrate 70, maybe 75 years on this life amongst it. That's a weird feeling to be, and then to come back to life where automatically you're somebody to somebody,
Right.
you know?
Yeah,
I know
no
that's
doubt.
real. That's kind of trippy. That's a trippy thing, but
Yeah, and man, nothing made the all my endeavors in life feel less important than some of those psilocybin trips. The training, the career aspirations, all those things just felt so silly and just
yeah.
and
Well, that's what. So let me ask you this: What if you continue down this journey? I'm sorry to steal the interview spot,
please,
but you're
this is the
interesting
best way to
too.
talk.
So if you were sitting here and you keep going down this model of you see that these things aren't so important, would you fault yourself in 10 years if you were 30 pounds lighter, still relatively in shape, still eating healthy, but less driven to I have to go to the gym today? Maybe it's I'm going to go hike a mountain or ruck a mountain today or do these kind of things as opposed to the gym. What if you woke up one day from a trip and it was like the weights are the thing that are holding you back?
I think as long as I have something to pursue that I'm really bought into, I'll be
Yeah,
okay. There was a
yeah.
period where I had a really bad nerve injury that ended my strongman career, and I still have the
Hmm.
nerve damage in my right leg. And I had about a year period where I couldn't squat, I couldn't deadlift, I couldn't do the training that I love to do. And I had this a few week period where I was just in the dump, mentally destroyed and just without direction. But then I started pursuing mobility, and it was just
Hmm.
the thing that I gravitated towards because it was something I could do. It was sort of this new challenge and it carried relevance. I was like, you know what? If I become the most mobile human I can be, this is going to benefit me when I'm healthy and able to train again. So I dove into the mobility, and I learned so much. I added so many tools to my toolbox, recovery modalities, loaded mobility, FRC, things like that. And the point is, I realized, okay, I've got the ability to dive into something new. And
Hmm.
when my wife and I went to Troy, Alabama, when I was working for Daryl Bauer at Troy, we're out in small town Alabama. There's absolutely nothing to do, and I dove into fishing, and
Yeah.
I became like obsessed. I was watching hours of YouTube videos on fishing, and previously where I'd been listening to bodybuilding podcasts and watching
Yeah.
training videos, all of a sudden I've got fishing YouTube up. So I know if I can find something that I fall in love with and can pursue it, there's always going to be something for me, you know.
Right.
So
Well, let me ask you this. I guess one more wrinkle to that question. What if everything about your life through I mean, not your family or anything like that, but just like you was like you had this trip and it was like the overarching message was no more. Like you can't be that guy anymore. Like Dorian Yates, for example, right?
yeah,
He was blood and guts. Like that was Dorian. And you see him now, and I'm not saying I sound like him or he sounds like me, but we sound more similar than you and I sound similar,
yeah,
you know? And I think at 31, I would have sounded like you. He would have sounded like you, but I think he sounds even further than I am, you know? And it's like this was a guy who basically hid away for a year at a time and would resurrect himself for the Olympia stage and then stay hidden for a year. So, like, you talk about a dedication to a craft, he had it at a level that I can't even comprehend because I heard he was, I mean, I've talked to him a couple times, but I've been told he was like insanely meticulous, like
right,
to the decimal of a gram when he was weighing out his foods and things like that. But here he is now, and he's like, "Oh, I got up this morning, smoked a joint, took a ride, did some yoga, hit a few weights, did a few pull-ups," and it's like he seems happier than ever. And what I've found for myself is, as long as I've trained and been active, I feel good. I don't feel like if I squatted 900 pounds right now, like if somebody gave me the ability to squat 900 pounds right now, I would do it to do it, and I would never do it again. Like I
yeah,
would never, dude, a heavy weight for me at the point in my life that I'm in right now and the things I've done, I would rather be able to deadlift 510 times than 900 once. You know, because none of my pursuits are hinging on a 900-pound deadlift. You
right,
know, they're not even hinging on a 500-pound deadlift, but my cardio capacity and my strength capacity is needed on a repeated basis. So 500 for 10, 450 for 10, something like that sounds more appealing to me than 900 for one. And
yeah,
that was my last goal. That was the last goal that I didn't hit in powerlifting. That was the
right.
only one I didn't hit it. So
Well, I'm open to the fact that I'm wise
I'm not
enough.
trying to talk you out of your life,
No, I
though.
hear
You know what
you.
I mean?
I'm wise enough to know that I'm not going to be doing this forever, and
Yeah.
I'm
I
open
think
to
that's the important part.
I'm open to the fact that there will come a time where I'm not pursuing the physical pursuits I am now, and
Yeah.
that things will change in my life. I'm just hoping when that time comes, it's on my own terms,
Yeah.
and that's not always how it goes, obviously.
No, not for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's tough, man. Well, I'm gonna have to figure that out as I go, to be honest.
Well, I'm just telling you, kind of like I tell guys, because I work with some guys that transitioned from the military after my injury, and we can talk about that a little bit if you want to. But after my injury, I was basically ranked, depending on the poll, and we'll just say I was ranked in the top three or higher in just about every active competitive poll for my weight class. And I went into this competition ranked that way, and I left with, you know, extreme trauma to both knees from that competition. So basically, walk into that meet number one or arguably one of the top lifters in the world and walk out wondering if I can even walk again. When I had the surgery or I went to the hospital after the event, they couldn't believe that I was in a lifting accident. They thought I'd been in a front end collision in a car crash. And dude, I was taken to the LA County Hospital because it was a trauma. And instead of taking me to UCLA or Stanford or somewhere that would have been amazing, they took me to the LA County Hospital. And my triage room, I'm laying flat on a bed, like completely unable to move. I mean, my hands are fine, but like my legs, I can't get up or anything. There's a woman in the bed beside me with a gunshot wound to her face, and the man who shot her, who is her boyfriend, handcuffed to the wall. This is LA County Hospital. So, you remember the guy that was at USC that dropped the barbell on his neck? Okay, so the surgeon who did his esophageal repair did my knees. And he's an amazing, like, he's an amazing surgeon. And he just happens to volunteer at trauma centers, like in his off time. And I was one of his cases. Get through the surgery, everything was great. Month back home, kind of like I was still in the mindset of I'm going to get this back. Like I'm going to be back better than ever. Like hell yeah. There wasn't this woe is me, feeling sorry for myself kind of thing. Even when they told me I wouldn't walk for 10 months after my surgery, I literally got out of the bed and like held onto the walker and squatted back to the bed and stood myself up with straight legs, like fresh with a nerve block in my legs. I made myself do it. And I said, I squatted in 10 minutes. What are you talking about? So a little bit of fear with arrogance, I think. Everything was going so good. My knees actually felt better than prior to surgery, which is crazy because my left knee was everything, ACL, PCL, MCL, meniscus, quad tendon, patella tendon. Odd to tear uh, counterpoint tendons from the same joint, but it did. My kneecap had slid to the left 2 inches and up into the quad area 3 inches. So you can imagine over and up. And then the right leg was quad tendon and meniscus. Both knees felt awesome. I was walking from the kitchen to the living room, and it had one of those little divider strips between
Yeah.
the material, the hardwood and the carpet. The walker hit that, and it just like caused me to scoot my left knee, and I felt a small pop, like dude, somebody like flipped you like that, like not even hard. Go to the appointment the next day, which is already planned, and he was like, "Anything else? Everything looks good." And I said, "Oh, by the way, yesterday I did this thing, and it kind of popped. I just want you to feel around in there." He's like, "Yeah, we better do an MRI." Sure enough, some of the stitches had popped, so it was like a little tear. So he's like, "Yeah, we probably need to fix that." He's like, "If you're good to just be a guy," he's like, "we'll leave it alone. It'll be fine. But if you want to keep doing this lifting thing, we'll fix it." Fixes it. 4 days later, I wake up, raging infection.
Mm.
And then that was the subsequent story over and over again, cadaver tendons, all that kind of stuff across 19 surgeries on my left knee. And
19.
uh,
Good Lord.
19, and April 12th of 16, I fell January 26th of 14. April 12th of 16, set up and decided that I wasn't very good at figuring out who I was outside of this thing, and I couldn't do it anymore. So I just didn't want to live. Like I flirted with some pain pills and a gun barrel, and ended up just not realizing that I didn't want to die. I just didn't want to live like this. You
Yeah.
know, it's two different statements. And called my dad. He comes over and he's like, two things. He's like, number one, I should have told you I loved you every day. And number two, I'm sorry that we ever got to a place that it was hard to make this phone call. So for me, who's this big, strong guy trying to maybe prove to my dad that I'm worth something, make him proud of me, whatever. In this moment, it was like he was always proud of me. He just never said it. He just never articulated it. But in this moment, it was like maybe there's something more to this and getting back on my feet. So I approached powerlifting one more time after that, just to kind of go out, not on my own terms, but just to go out proud of myself. I benched 600 in a meet, deadlifted 840, which was a PR, lifetime PR, after the surgeries and everything. And I squatted more than I fell with before it was all said and done. So I kind of checked off those boxes to make peace with it. But dude, once I did those things, I literally never wanted to lift heavy again. And not from the standpoint of not being strong, but just from the standpoint of I felt like I imagine it's like Muhammad Ali at some point in his life had to look back and like, man, my life is amazing. I'm a superstar, but I can't control my hands anymore, or I can't do these things anymore. And you start to worry about the weight of what you did. That's the way it was for me, was like, how many more attempts at this is it going to take before something else gives, or maybe my heart gives out? Dude, I was 348 pounds. You know, I started, I talked about 165 when I started, and now I'm 200 pounds almost heavier than that. Not the lifter that I was at 308 or 310, but 348 with that guy somewhat inside, but just a fat shell around him. I wasn't even I wasn't even a good lifter that last go around, but I actually had fun at the meet. And my best meets ever, I'd get the hand raise, and it was like I could have done more. I could have done more. So I think getting away from the sport on a high note for me, where I was happy, I was around people that I like competing with. I didn't put up huge numbers. I maybe benched 500 and pulled 700, but for me at that time, that was a good enough point to walk away.
Did you feel was there a sense of relief at all?
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck yes. Fuck yeah. Like the I saw the writing on the wall very quickly. Like I was a strong guy. I was a fast adapter. Seemed like I grew really, really well in every front for strength. But then it was just right around that time, like I was business partners with Chad Wesley Smith. He was squatting 900. I was squatting in the 840s. So it's like, okay, his bench is getting better because my bench was always the separator. So I was always a mid range squatter. Guys would be high eights. I'd be in the mid eights. Most of those guys couldn't bench five or just barely five, but I could bench 575 to 600. So I would catch kind of that swing there. And then it's like, let's go to the deadlift. So I was pretty good as a total guy, but I wasn't like spectacular at any one lift
Right.
except the bench, where I benched 600. So I was always looking for little advantages and stuff like that. We even talked about that at the Mark Bell meet, the backyard meet of the century. That was what put me on the map in raw lifting, was that meet, because one, I was invited out basically to formally accept last place. Mark Bell said that. He was like, we got this hit from Paint Lick coming for last place. And dude, I wrote that on everything in my house, in my truck rearview mirror. You're coming to Sacramento for last place. So I go out there. We were talking about Vince Urbank and George Lehman and
Yep.
all those guys. And that meet was just stacked. But I saw the openers, and I knew everybody's lifts. Like I could tell you at that time, I could tell you the 132-pound females world records. Like I was on every, like I was a data geek for the numbers. So I knew these guys were opening up quite a bit heavier than their previous meets. And I even heard some of them saying, I think I'm only going to get one or two lifts in, so I want to open a little heavier. So I was like, no, nah, I'm lowering my opener. So I was supposed to open at 790, go 815, and then 826. I was like, let's go 770, 804, 826. And that's exactly what I did, stuck to the plan. Open up at 551, take 573, pass my third, because my gym potential, I believed, was 575. And I benched 573 on a second. I wanted another attempt at 573 on my third if I had problems on the second. So then it comes down to the last lift. And this is actually going to tie all this back together. So I'm glad I brought it up. Thanks. So we go to the deadlift, and it's me and Eric Lillibridge kind of going back and forth. So for me, I didn't tell you this, but Louis told me the day that I turned the key in that I would never deadlift 800 pounds without West Side. So that was my incentive to get back there. He's like, you'll
Yeah.
never pull 800 without West Side. So, and Louis. So the way kilos work, it's like 797 or 799. Yeah, it's 799.7 and then 804.
804. Yeah.
Yeah. So 799.7 ain't 800. 804 is.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing. 804 was going to give me 1,000 kilo total. It would have been my first 800 deadlift and the win. So I got to go 804. So I pull that 2204 total, 1,000 kilos, 804 deadlift, win the meet. Next morning, I wake up from an email from Louis. Congrats on the meet. Way to pull 800. Go West Side, motherfucker. And I said, what are you talking about? And I said, what are you talking about, old man? And we weren't on good terms at this time. We were not on good terms at this time. So I was surprised to even see the email. And he said, how many times do you think about kicking my ass when you were training for this meet? And I said, every day. And he said, that's right, West Side motherfucker. And it was
Yeah.
like, it was perfect. But that actually started a healing between us. We had a couple in-person conversations after that. He said some very awesome things to me about my lifting and that kind of thing. So I'll take that stuff with me more than the time that I was there,
Right.
because I really felt like in his eyes, maybe not done it perfect, but like he shook my hand like a man, and that was good for me. You know what I mean? Like we kind of ended our beef.
Let me ask you this, Brandon. Had you missed that deadlift, do you think your life would be different now?
Yeah, 100%. Because that meet was at the time, I don't know for sure, but I'm going to say had to be one of the biggest meets ever viewed. Um, Seminar calls rolled in. uh, just coaching calls. Like a lot of things really changed. Animal, that kind of spurred on that moment there. A lot of just opportunities, doors opened for me after that. And to answer the question, I said yes, it did change my life. Did that deadlift actually change my life? No,
Yeah.
because it didn't change me. Like it didn't change, like I wasn't better for that deadlift. My surroundings got better, my situation got better, but that's where we get confused a lot of times is that because my life is good, people assume I'm good.
Right.
People assume that, oh, because he's got this car and this house or this thing or that thing, oh, he's the man. Well, a lot of men like that are not the best versions of themselves in spite of all that they have. And that's the way that I felt with lifting was I probably qualified that 804 then because it did achieve something that I was pursuing. But now, like I said, what would 900 do for me now? Like really, like if I deadlifted 1,200 pounds tomorrow, one handed, what would it do for me beyond making me viral and probably putting me on an interview circuit? Like
Right.
really, what would it do for me?
Yeah.
You know, what has it done for Thor to set that world record beyond what he was doing before the world record? Guy was still internationally known in movies, making tons of money, doing that stuff. Did it change his life? No. Would 1,000 change my life today? No. Would 804 change my life then? Just the surroundings.
Yeah.
It didn't change me for the better or worse. It proved that I accomplished something, but the next day I felt empty again
Yeah.
because I was chasing the next thing.
Yeah, it's fleeting, right? That feeling of you think it's going to be that fulfillment when you're standing on top of the podium and you've worked so hard to get there, and then you get there and it's like, now what, right?
Yeah, there was a golfer just talking about this
Yeah,
week. Did
yeah,
you hear
yeah.
him?
I saw that
Yeah,
interview. Yep. I thought that was
yeah. I
spot
mean,
on.
it's the same. It's a very real thing. I mean, you think about Tom Brady into some of those Super Bowl runs. It's like, well, we won three now. Well, guess what? You got to win four. Guess what? You got to win five. And that's the punishment of greatness is the expectation becomes either so high and you're just a rock star that can handle it or you crumble. And I think knowing myself, the reason I got hurt was because I couldn't say no to not proving myself. I had gone to Australia. I'd won the Pro Raw 5 in the heavyweight division, competed with Dan Green. He won the lightweight division. Had an amazing trip. Came back to Mexico for a week. Just I didn't get crazy, but just ate good food and enjoyed myself. Relaxed, didn't train. And Brandon Allen had kind of talked online that he'd like to face me in this meet and go head to head. And no disrespect at all, because I'll come back to that too. But I didn't like him because of that. Like it was like you're challenging me. Like who the fuck are you? Kind of like that was me. But I didn't want to do the meet. And then Steve Dennison kind of kept calling from the USPA. He was like, "Oh, we'll do this for you. We'll fly you out. We'll get you a hotel. Like, we'd really like to have you there." So I was like, "Fine, I'll do it. Fuck it, I'll beat him." Do a weight cut, first time in my life ever. Like I said the statement. There's no weight class in the jungle. There's no deloads in a war zone, and it's not from the sense that those things aren't real and that they aren't important to consider. But my question was actually to a client. I was like, "You weigh 198 and can possibly pull 700 pounds, but you want to pull at 181 and try to go for 700. It's not going to happen. Like, let's get 700 first, and then we can figure out how to back end it into a smaller body weight. But get the lift first. If you deadlifted 690 today at 198 and they put that on your tombstone, would you feel that much better if it said 700? Let's go out there and figure out a way to get what you want, and then we'll add another layer. So it was all about that. Like there's no weight class in the jungle. Just be as strong as you can. There's no deloads in the war zone. Sometimes you have to go because it's time to fucking go. So anyway, I was always in that mindset thing. But coming back from that trip, I was always dedicated to not cut weight. But Brandon was at 308, so I went down from super heavyweight. Lost 26 pounds in 24 hours and had 27 back on by the time we started the meet. I think I shocked my system too much because even like 315 felt off. Like it felt hard. And I squatted 727 or something. And it was like, that shouldn't have been that hard. So I was like 744, second attempt, done for the day. And again, if I have to do it again on the third, I'll do it or whatever. So I go down on the second. I'll walk it in before the rack command and I get a red light. So I have to repeat it. I had changed my shoes. I had told them I wasn't lifting. I was like out of the mind space to lift. And then they're like, oh, Brandon, you're up next. So I rush up there. You can see it, the platform wobbled. So I'm like all over the place trying to get stable and stuff. Go down. As soon as I start going down, knee turned in, cracked. But to tell you the thing, so if anything I said makes you question Brandon Allen, that is the only, singular only individual that checked on me through all my surgeries. The only one. I'm not talking powerlifting. I'm talking the only human being that consistently checked on me throughout my powerlifting. Is Brandon
Brandon's a
Allen.
good dude. He was on the podcast a few months back, and I hung out with him at the Strongest Man on Earth competition. He was out there to arm wrestle Brian Shaw, but
Yeah,
he's a good man and was a hell of a lifter.
yeah, he's awesome, and I love seeing him getting after it in the power or the arm wrestling after powerlifting. But yeah, I went and visited him out at Filthy Power Gym a couple times when I was in Vegas and whatnot, and beautiful wife, family. But just a lot of guys misunderstand him, and if anybody that's been misunderstood can put some clarity on a guy, I don't care what anybody says about that dude. He's solid in my book.
Brandon, if you're listening to this, we love you, big dog.
Yeah, dog.
Well, let me ask you this, man. Closing question, and then we'll wrap it up. What gets
Yep,
you up in the morning these days? What's driving
dude.
Brandon Lilly these days in 2025?
I guess the best answer I can give you is that I look at my life, I look at people in it, people that have impacted me, people that said I've impacted them, and that's really to me. Yeah, I hunt. Yeah, I shoot my bow. I train. Love people around me, like normal stuff. But really, what gets me going is I think I get a chance to show myself that as many misjudgments I made in life, as many wrong turns as I've taken, as many just silly, stupid things that I've done, that it was worth it. Like I didn't waste those lessons that were hard. I didn't keep hurting people after I learned how to hurt people. You know what I mean? Like once
Yeah,
you hurt someone, oh, don't ever do that again. So at 43, I figure I've got 30, 35 years left, maybe. And that's what I want. I want those 30 years to just be in equal proportion of good to the bad that I feel that I could have done better in the first 43. That's really it. I mean,
yeah.
there's no one thing, because if I do that, if I am honest, if I am kind, if I am good, if I choose the right decision for the situation, not just for me, it's pretty hard to have a bad day. And if you don't have very many bad days, it's hard to have a bad life. And that's the way I'm looking at life now is that's the plus one.
Yeah.
There's no zeros in life. It's either good or bad, right or wrong, left or right, up or down, black or white. And you either got better today or you took a step backwards. And I'm not going to win every day. But if I've got 30 days in a month, if I can win 16 of them, I still won the month. If I can win 7 months out of the year, I won the year. And I'm not looking to go 7-5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's the way I allow myself to operate is be kind to yourself when you are human. Be kind to yourself when you do mistakes, but don't make it malicious. If you've made the same mistake and you do it again, it's a choice. So that's what I'm trying to do now is just educate myself, learn about the world, learn about people, and honest to God, help anybody any way that I can. And that's part of my daily, I guess I'll tell you this. Part of my daily thing is to read something outside of my passion. It can be an article, it could be a YouTube video if it has to be, but something outside of my own passion. Learn something new today.
Yeah.
Number two, help a total stranger for no reason,
Yeah.
right? And number three, think about 5 small things that nobody else would be grateful for yesterday and write those down.
I love that.
Like 5 things that, maybe you got a bonus. That's not it. It's the way somebody like waved you over in traffic so you could get in there. Be
Yeah.
grateful for that because there's enough people on there that would have run you off the road. Like those kind of little things. And when you start appreciating and noticing and seeking out finding those little things, well, the big things just seem gigantic. The good stuff is always good, but the little good gets forgotten. And I try to find those 5 of those things, learn something new, help a stranger.
I love that. there's just a lot of wisdom and great perspective in a lot of what you said on this podcast. And these are things that I need to adopt into my life moving forward. And I always love it when I get on a podcast and the conversation goes differently than I anticipated. Right? You know,
Well, I was getting ready to say we might have
I
to have a part two for
I
the
was
other
gonna say
side.
I always have, you know, my kind of list of topics, and I'm here, you know, we're gonna talk about West Side and meathead stories, and you know, we open this up talking about the duality, the intellectual side, the deep thinking, and I'm glad that's the direction the podcast took, man, because I'm gonna listen back to this and just have some great takeaways for myself, and I know my audience will as well, man. So I'm
Well, I appreciate your time, man.
yeah, no, I appreciate yours. In the meantime, Brandon, where can people find you at?
Probably the easiest place is going to be Brandon Lilly 3 on Instagram. I also run the Peace, Love, and Meat page with my buddy Ross. That's dedicated to basically what I just said. If I can remove somebody's I don't know what to do, that's peace, love, and meat. So we post free training. If I hear a song that I like, I post it. If I read a book that I like, I post it. If I see a movie that I like, I post it. If I see an interesting reel, I share it. And the idea behind that is if I find it interesting and knew nothing about it 10 minutes before I posted it, maybe somebody else will find it interesting. And if there's enough people that I don't know what to do for training. Well, here's your training. I don't know what books to read. Well, here's a book or here's a list of books to read. If I can get people thinking, I don't want to tell you what to think, but if I can make people think for themselves, that's the greatest gift I can give anybody. Ask better questions, don't give answers.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, man. Well, guys, go check out everything that Brandon Lilly is putting out there. Go check out the Backyard Meat of the Century on YouTube. If you haven't watched that, it's a hell of a watch. Go check him out
Yeah.
from his lifting days and then everything he's doing these days and just having a tremendous impact on a lot of people out there. So, anyway, Brandon, I appreciate your time tremendously. And I know my audience is going to have a lot of great takeaways from this. And guys, you can find me at my website, hammerchiselperformance.com. Check out my coaching services, ebook, training programs, all that good stuff. Episodes of the Hammer and Chisel Performance Podcast drop in on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple every Tuesday. And then if you're liking the content on the YouTube channel, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, help me grow this thing and get on great guests like I had on today. So anyway, guys, we will catch you on the next episode. And Brandon, I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Thanks, man. Let's go fishing.
Yes, sir.